Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Uh, I try to I try to prepare for you a good show. A lot of news, a lot of topics to go through. It is 27th of November, of course, 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. And well, dear friends, hopefully you will like the show. And in that case, sir, please like the video, leave some commentary afterwards. On any topic, really, more likes and comments probably will help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And also, if you want to discuss any topic after news segment, you can send your question or commentary with the super chat on Rumble, uh, which called Rant there, or you can use a Boosty platform for that. PayPal platform. Links are on this within description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, I will react on your question or the comment, and we will have discussion after the news segment. Also, dear friends, for new members, potential new members, I will say that these channels of mine, this project basically is completely subscriber funded. That is, which means that only exists as long as I have your support, community support, and if you like my work, if you want to help, you can do it through several means. You can find all the links under this video, in description box, and will be published links in the pinned comment also after a stream ends. And I guess that's about it for intro. Let's go through some news now. And first of all, I'll give you an update about Kharkov region in the zone of special military operation. Andrei Marochko, military expert from LPR, stated that Russian armed forces are in control of 90% of Volchansk, which basically means that Volchansk city is under Russian control. When you control something 90%, that means you control that something, period, right? So I guess it's a clearing operation that is underway in the remaining 10% of the city. And maybe even before end of this week, we will receive a report of Russian Defense Ministry about Volchansk being completely liberated. Let me give you some details. So Ukrainian armed forces retain control of approximately 10% of Volchansk territory, while the majority of the city has fallen under the control of Russian troops. Military expert Andrei Marochko told the TASS news agency, and we have a quote here, during the liberation campaign, approximately 90% of the settlement or city of Volchansk came under control of the Russian army. The remaining 10% is effectively in a so-called gray zone currently. The village is being cleared, not the village, city actually. This is mechanical translation, by the way, from Google, which is not perfect. So the city is being cleared and the enemy is being eliminated in their surrounding areas. Also, Marochko reported that Ukrainian armed forces are urgently redeploying and strengthening their defense line in a wheelchair settlement. And when it comes to Kiev regime's forces in this area, we also have this report from RIA Novosti, dear friends, that Russian armed forces almost completely destroyed the 57th Brigade of the Ukrainian armed forces near Volchansk. So let's go through some details here. Through Ukrainian armed forces brigade near the Volchansk is suffering massive losses and has been almost completely destroyed. Russian security forces told the RIA Novosti. The 57th Brigade near Volchansk is being neutralized, reduced to basically nothing. Agencies sources said. This source added that wounded Ukrainian soldiers arriving at the front lines after treatment are unable to find their units because those units have been neutralized. They simply cease to exist and have nowhere to return to, the security agency representative noted. Last week, Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, Varil Gerasimov, reported to President Vladimir Putin that fighters from the Center Group have liberated more than 80% of Volchansk and were successfully advancing in the southern eastern part of the city. And since then, another 10% of the city was added to liberated part, as Marochko, military expert Andrei Marochko, is reporting. And during these clashes, well, it seems like 57th Brigade of the Kiev regime was basically nullified. And let me show you now on the map, dear friends, where this city is located. It's northern part of Kharkov region, of course, and well, this is Volchansk city that is divided by Volchia, river in two parts. The northern part of Volchansk, or right bank of the Volchia river in Volchansk, is under Russian control for quite a while now. And about 2 months ago, Russian troops began active operations on the left bank of the river in Volchansk city itself, in the surrounding areas. We received reports about Russian troops finalizing clearing operation in this massive forestry on the western side of the city. Also, relatively recently, we received reports about Selnikovo settlement and Tsegelno settlement being liberated by Russian troops. Currently, Russian militaries are conducting offensive operations, clearing operations in Liman village. This is the Liman in the Kharkov region, by the way. There is a city, Liman, in DPR also, of course, on the northern part of DPR, but that is a city. This one is a village in Kharkov region on southern western side. And when it comes to Volchansk itself, this map is not yet updated, not really is up to date, but 90% of the area that you see on your screen right now is under Russian control. The rest is in a gray zone, which means clearing operation is underway in that part of the city also. Therefore, it is well possible that before end of this week, in next 2-3 days, the Russian Defense Ministry will give us an update that liberation of the Volchansk have been successfully completed. When it comes to overall situation on the line of contact, well, let me give you a quick summary on that. In Kherson region, no major breakthroughs, no major developments are taking place right now. At least there are no reports about it in the media. When it comes to Zaporozhye region, Russian troops are conducting offensive operations in Orekhov and Gulyai-Pole direction. When it comes to Orekhov, which is located in the central part of Zaporozhye sector, Russian troops relatively recently liberated Malaya Takmachka settlement on the southeastern side of the Orekhov city. And on the southern side, Russian troops entered the Novodanilovka settlement, and clearing operation is underway in this village. Once this settlement and also Novoandreevka village on the southern western side of the Orekhov will be under full Russian control, probably we can say at that point that offensive on Orekhov has started. When it comes to Gulyai-Pole, situation even more difficult for Kiev regime's forces. Russian troops established control over all settlements on the eastern, south, and southern side of Gulyai-Pole, and forward units of the Russian militaries already are inside the Gulyai-Pole city itself. And I remind you, dear friends, that Orekhov and Gulyai-Pole are major strongholds of the Kiev regime in the central and most eastern flanks. When it comes to DPR, of course, main developments still are happening in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration area. Russian troops launched, I guess, after finalizing clearing operation in the southern western parts of the city of Pokrovsk, Russian troops launched offensive operation in direction of Grishina settlements. And right now you can see on your screen icon, for example, of fire where Russian troops were spotted. Videos are circulating about it, and a number of Telegram channels in the Russian segment of internet are reporting about further advances of the Russian militaries in the southern eastern parts of Grishina. Also, Russian troops intensifying operations in between Radinska settlement and northern parts of Pokrovsk. According to military channels, Russian troops have physical control over this gap, and as a confirmation of that, videos are circulating about Kiev regime's drones were dropping or attacking Russian militaries in between Radzinska and Pokrovsk in these fields, basically, which once again confirms that Mirnograd city is in complete encirclement. Complete encirclement. In the Mirnograd itself, clearing operation is about to be finalized in the southern part of the city. A bigger part, northern part of the city, largely still controlled by Kiev regime's forces. But as I mentioned yesterday, dear friends, videos were circulating about several Russian militaries being captured. If videos were true and not AI generated, then based on that video, several Russian soldiers were captured by Kiev regime's forces in the most central part of the city. And yet again, if true, then that is definitely indicator that the clearing operation is expanding inside this main body of the Mirnograd, northern part of their city too, and Russian presence are in the central parts. Otherwise, how these 3 or 4 Russian militaries end up there and being captured, right? Probably they advanced too rapidly from main part of their unit, and Kiev regime's forces used their opportunity and encircled them and forced to surrender. But there must be significant presence of the Russian armed forces in central Mirnograd also. I am not there, dear friends, therefore I cannot have more information on that. Clearing operation is about to be finalized in Pokrovsk, and I guess it will take still some time, maybe another week also, maybe 2 even, before Russian troops will finalize clearing operation in Mirnograd. Yet again, there is no hurry on part of Russian militaries. They will take whatever time is necessary, and I'm quite sure Russian troops will give opportunity to Kiev regime's forces that are encircled in Mirnograd to lay down arms and surrender. I will remind you, dear friends, that according to reports in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, as well as in Kupiansk, which is already liberated by Russian forces, Kiev regime at one point deployed most battle-capable brigades that they still had, right? And once Pokrovsk Mirnograd operation is finished, I think we will receive more reports about entire brigades of Kiev regime being completely decimated, most capable brigades. Also, Russian troops further intensifying of offensive operations in Konstantinovka direction. Earlier, there were some reports that Russian militaries were spotted in central parts of Konstantinovka, but yet again, Russian Defense Ministry did not really give us an update on that, and therefore it is difficult to say what's going on. I think first Russian troops will be focused more on settlements on the left or southern western part of the Konstantinovka, Biristok, for example, Stepanovka, Dolgaya Balka, Raskoshna. These settlements have to be liberated, I think, and then probably we will see a general push towards the Konstantinovka. Let's see how the situation develop. After all, I'm not a military expert, and we should always keep that in mind, isn't it? My reading of the big picture on the battlefield can be very wrong, right? But nevertheless, factual evidences, video confirmations are that Russian troops already are present in Konstantinovka. When it comes to Seversk direction, earlier there was reports that Russian troops entered the city from southern, eastern, and the northern parts. Russian troops finalizing clearing operation in Platonovka area, conducting offensive operations in Zakatnaya area. Yampol settlement is already under Russian control, and also Russian troops from several directions entered the city of Liman. And Liman and Seversk, as you know, dear friends, are major strongholds of Kiev regime on most northern parts of flank of Pokrovsk, DPR, Donetsk People's Republic. And well, on Kharkov region, I already reported about liberation, almost full liberation of Volchansk. It will take probably little time more to finalize clearing operation in that remaining 10% of the city that Kiev regime's forces still have their presence. And yeah, maybe before end of this week, we will receive reports about Volchansk being completely liberated. When it comes to Kupiansk, city is already under full Russian control. Kiev regime lost one of the most capable units that they had during the battle for Kupiansk, and significant number of Kiev regime's forces still are trapped, by the way, on the left bank of Oskol River, on the southern eastern side of Kupiansk. But yet again, Russian troops will take whatever time is necessary to neutralize these hostile forces while trying as much as they can to minimize casualties among our military personnel, Russian military personnel. And that's about it for a short summary on the situation on the battlefield. The initiative is in Russian hands, of course, all along the front line. And there is no scenario, not even theoretical chances on the part of NATO and NATO proxy regime to regain initiative anywhere on the front line. That's been said. Dear friends, let's continue with some other news. I want to share with you this report about CSTO summit being launched in capital of Kyrgyzstan, in which Russian President Vladimir Putin is participating. RIA Novosti is reporting about it. So restricted attendance meeting of their CSTO summit is underway in Bishkek, with the President Vladimir Putin participating. CSTO is, of course, military alliance that was created by a number of former Soviet republics, that is Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. And yes, summit is taking place in Bishkek. The event began under the chairmanship of Kyrgyzstan. Also in attendance were their leaders, country's leader, Saidar Japarov, also Kazakhstani leader, Tokayev, Tajikistan President Emomali Rakhmonov, Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko. Before the meeting began, Putin spoke with Tokayev, President of Kazakhstan, on his feet, and they entered their meeting room together. They had their exchange of opinions before entering their meeting. Well, let's see what news we're going to receive from Bishkek about summit of CSTO. Организация ОДКБ and right now, by the way, RIA Novosti is reporting that Putin proposed launching a program to equip their CSTO with the Russian weapons. Well, CSTO countries mostly operating with Russian weapons anyways, right? And well, what can I say about this organization, by the way? It's a big disappointment, of course. How you translate in English, by the way? Collective Security Treaty Organization, that's the English language of it. And yes, it's a big disappointment, of course, because I remind you that when Kiev regime's forces and NATO mercenaries entered the Russian Kursk region and occupied the Kursk salient area for quite a number of months, ODKB or CSTO did nothing, literally nothing, to assist Russia. And therefore, I think this is a useless organization, personal opinion, by the way. I think this is useless organization, and it will be better if Russia will focus on bilateral mutual defense pacts more than this freaking organization that did nothing to support Russia. So why we need this organization? Why we are part of it? I don't know. I don't understand. If at least CSTO member states offer their openly, publicly offer their deployment of their troops to help, right, to liberate Kursk salient area, and even if Russia would refuse, if Russia would say no, we okay, we are good, okay, that will change, that will influence my attitude towards this organization. But they did not even offer their support publicly. I don't know, maybe they did privately behind the closed doors, but it does not count, right? It does not count, because privately they can say anything. Only when something is said publicly, stated publicly, when there is a documents in a place, right? That's when we are talk, right? That's when we having a conversation. So useless organization that Russia spends a lot of money on, right, and time and effort. Hopefully, in next several years, this CSTO will be dissolved, and Russia will focus more on bilateral agreements like we have with Belarus, right? For example. Yet again, my personal opinion, you might disagree with me, but I think CSTO even more useless organization than NATO is, man. It's a freaking joke. Only success that CSTO might counter since its existence is operation in Kazakhstan, when attempt of regime change was thwarted while CSTO troops being deployed. And that's about it. There is no success story behind this useless organization. Anyways, let's continue. And yesterday, it was yesterday, isn't it, or day before, I reported about yet another false flag operation that enemies of Russia from collective West and their proxies in Ukraine and Moldova come up with, which is that they took a Russian Gerbera drone, placed that drone on the roof of some building in Moldova, and then began they then launched hysteria that Russian drone violated their Moldova's airspace. And Russian ambassador in Moldova, by the way, commented on the situation and said to the journalist that, are you really believe? That's what he actually said. I watched the video. Do you really believe that Russian drone that was launched somewhere 1,000 miles away, then ran out of fuel, somehow end up in Moldova and landed on a roof without breaking apart, and also without damaging anything on that roof, right? Are you really believing that? He asked Moldavian so-called journalists, and that was quite telling. That was quite telling, really. I can understand diplomat cannot go into a more stronger language. Otherwise, he could say, you know what, morons, I'm not commenting on your freaking stupid so-called questions. I mean, you are freaking morons. Go read a couple of books. Maybe your brains will work a little better. That's what I would say, Fuck diplomacy, man. Just tell them that they are freaking filth. That's it, man. That's what they are. While they are pushing this narrative that this drone that was actually launched on 18th of November, according to Russian military bloggers, in the Kharkov region, right? How this drone, after 5 days, end up in Moldova, by the way. It's nonsense, right? But yet again, because Western public and public in the Western-controlled states have been zombified completely, they are no longer able, maybe not completely, but mostly, let's say, they are no longer able to ask critical questions, even simplest critical questions, by the way. They just cannot do this. Their brains not work no more, right? and therefore they are digesting all their shit that they've been given, right, by their so-called media and by their so-called leaders. And well, Russian ambassador, while being diplomat, of course, he could not use stronger language, but he said, I mean, do you even believe this whole story yourself? They might, because they are stupid, man. They only have like one brain cell, maybe not even that. Total morons, right? But nevertheless, these false flag operations continue on daily and are happening on daily basis. Just a few days ago, I reported about Dutch militaries opening fire on some imaginary drones, right? Because they have to put more fuel in Russia hate, isn't it? And a few days ago, Dutch or Netherlands Defense Ministry actually reported that they opened fire on a imaginary. They did not say it was imaginary. They said on the drones, but no drones were found nowhere, by the way. So clearly it was an imaginary drone, right? And now this story, and this story clearly confirms, by the way, that recent false flag operation in Poland, when some 20 Russian drones that were picked somewhere in Ukraine and then placed in Poland, that was exactly that false flag operation. This story from Moldova confirms that that's exactly what they did in Poland. They just put these drones in different places, right? And they did manage to sell it to the public. To nowadays, Western propaganda, time to time, is recalling that story as a factual, that 20 Russian drones crossed the Polish border and even destroyed some roof of the house, while in reality that roof, for example, was destroyed by, according to latest reports, F-35 that launched a missile that went wrong, right? So that's what is going on, by the way. False flag operation after false flag operation. I don't really understand why they need so many false flag operations. I mean, that is globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe, because they already zombified their public, their audience. They already did, man. Vast majority of people in Europe, for example, are freaking zombies, man. They are no longer able of critical thinking. They are zombies, right? Literally zombies, by the way. Their brains are dead. So I don't think globalists really need to continue messing the brains of those majorities in Europe. They already are brain dead, man. Right? But nevertheless, I mean, I guess this is, when machine starts work, it just cannot stop. It continues working to the end, right? And that's the only reason why these false flag operations are popping up literally on daily basis. It's not necessary, man. You already freaking zombified your citizens, right? Anyways, remember, I also reported a couple of days ago about this story that truck was detained on the Romanian border, packed with all sorts of guided weapon systems and other weapons, including guided anti-tank missiles and also MANPADS, air defense missile systems, portable air defense missile systems. Initial reports were that these missiles were Stinger, US-made Stinger missiles, but later, number of sources reported that no, all weapon systems were Soviet era or Soviet style, right? And I did share my take on the situation. I think globalist London, first of all, British Secret Services, basically, together with their Ukrainian proxies, were preparing massive terrorist attack, massive false flag operation with the massive casualties, by the way, somewhere in Europe, most likely. And I guess Russian intelligence service got its hands on this information, shared this information with their US intelligence community, and probably Washington get involved. US state institutions, security services get involved. They send probably some delegation some group into Romania to track and stop this truck packed full of weapons. And they did, by the way. They did. Vehicle was stopped, and I think massive tragedy was avoided somewhere in Europe. And you might ask, what was the plan of the British Secret Services? Well, maybe you have noticed, by the way, that in Europe already there are open calls, open statements that Western world, collective West, needs something on a scale, attack on a scale of 9/11 to get together again, to get united again. And this kind of stuff is said in regards to US being on a crossroad, kind of not fully in, not fully out from this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. So I guess globalists and globalist controlled regimes are afraid that there is actually risk that certain influential forces in US might actually regain initiative in Washington and pull out US from this proxy war against Russia, and then focus actually on America First topic, right? And globalists are afraid of it, obviously, because without US being their hammer or chain dog, globalists are nothing. Only force they have for past like 5-6 decades more, it's US, man. If anybody in America were thinking that they are living in independent state, well, sorry, but you're not, right? Your country is a chain dog for globalists, in hands of globalists and in hands of Zionists, and their assets inside the US. And they have a lot of assets, by the way, inside the US, neocons, military-industrial complex, intelligence community, deep state in general, right? And you might ask, well, if globalists and Zionists infiltrated the intelligence community, then why would this very intelligence community stop this vehicle? And well, let me tell you that in US there is a 30 plus security organizations, right? And Tulsi Gabbard is supposed to be in charge of all. And I guess Russian side, if my guess is correct, and Russian side had the information through its sources about this false flag operation that British Secret Services together with Kyiv regime were planning, I think Russian side shared information directly with Tulsi Gabbard's office, right? Because CIA cannot be trusted, FBI cannot be trusted, right? And I think sometime in the future we will learn that it was Tulsi Gabbard, her office, that actually sent her group in Romania to stop this vehicle. Otherwise, this vehicle would not be stopped, by the way. I'm 100% convinced on that, because there was numerous occasions when weapons and explosives from Ukraine crossed not just Moldova, by the way, but also Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, entered Turkey, crossed all Turkey, and up in Georgia. There was several occasions when those vehicles with or the personalities with the weapons and explosives were not even stopped in Georgia, and they entered Russia. I remind you, by the way, that according to reports, if I remember correctly, truck that exploded on the Crimean Bridge a few years ago entered Russia from Georgia. Right? Since then, Georgian security services increased control significantly, right? And they stopped quite a number of vehicles that were packed with explosives. And the question is, how, for God's sake, those vehicles with explosives managed to pass borders from Ukraine to reach Georgia from Ukraine? How those vehicles and their people that were involved managed to come to Georgia while moving through so many NATO member states, right? Not just through Moldova, which is okay, quasi-state, not counts, but they went through Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Turkey, and then entered Georgia. How? You know how? Because CIA and British MI6 were monitoring the situation, right? These operations, these terrorist operations, were done under the umbrella of MI6 and CIA. But this time, I think Tulsi Gabbard's office get involved, and they stopped this vehicle. And now we are learning, and by the way, I think potentially thousands of lives were saved somewhere in Europe. And now we are learning that a truck with parts of Geran 2 drones were detained at the entrance to Romania. So Romanian border guards found elements of their intercepted Geran 2 drones and contraband weapons in a truck traveling from Chișinău, which is Chișinău, capital of Moldova. So this truck entered Romania through Moldova, right? And I believe this is same truck. I believe this is same truck that was detained in Romania several days ago. So it was not just a lot of weapons in that truck, but also parts of Geran 2 drones. And now you tell me why they put Geran 2 parts, parts of intercepted drone into this truck. I can tell you why. I can tell you why. I think London British Secret Services were planning 9/11 scale terrorist attack, by the way, and they still do. They still do. One truck was detained, but who knows how many other large-scale terrorist attacks they have prepared. But their plan was, I think, to conduct a 9/11 scale terrorist attack somewhere in Europe, in France, in Germany, in any other country, while killing hundreds, potentially thousands of people. And their calculus most likely was that after this attack, they will drop somewhere. First of all, these fragments of the weapons would be found, right? And all the weapons in that truck was, according to reports, Soviet-era weapons. So they will use this as to blame Russia. And also, for whatever reason, they put their Geran 2 drone parts also. So maybe they wanted to place fragments of the Geran 2 around their attack place, right? So that they will then say somehow Russia bring Geran drones inside the NATO and launch it from NATO, right? Something like that. But clearly, by the way, clearly some massive terrorist attack by British Secret Services, conducted by British Secret Services and their Ukrainian proxies were thwarted as a result of stopping this vehicle on the Romanian border. I don't know why not that many channels on alternative media talking about this story, man. This is big. This is massive story, right? British Secret Services were planning to kill hundreds, potentially thousands of people in Europe in attempt to blame then everything on Russia and in attempt to keep US in this war against Russia and basically to keep US chained, right? And I don't see much talk about this stuff even in alternative media, which is quite strange, man. And the major question, I think, is now, okay, one truck was stopped, but how many other trucks actually went through? Maybe not through Romania, but through Poland. Do we know this? What other large-scale terrorist attack and false flag operations British Secret Services are planning to keep US in this proxy war against Russia and to basically derail any chances that Moscow and Washington will find the common ground and will begin de-escalating. This is big story, by the way. This is big story, and unfortunately, not enough attention being paid to it, right? Which is extremely dangerous, I think, because right now, today, tomorrow, day after, something massive might happen with the tremendous casualties in Europe, and they're gonna blame Russia for it, man, while they themselves will orchestrate that attack. British Secret Services, first of all, right? And their proxies. I don't know, man. While all this stuff is happening, Western media is focused on freaking phone conversation between alleged phone conversation between Ushakov and Witkov. Conversation that was nothing extraordinary. Yesterday, I went through the topic and it was nothing there, right? But yes, Western public is being attention of Western public being diverted to God knows what, anything and everything, but except what is actually important. This is dangerous, man. This is very dangerous stuff. But at least our community knows what is going to happen, because I'm afraid London will actually launch massive terrorist attacks somewhere in Europe, maybe in US even, right? In relatively short time. Then to blame Russia for that, and then to keep US in this war, and to basically kill any talks between Moscow and Washington. Globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe will do this, man. Mark my word. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that Kremlin aid sees Washington infighting behind the leak of phone conversation that I just mentioned between Steve Witkoff and Yuri Ushakov. Someone in Washington could be, and dear friends, on this topic, by the way, I did made entire live stream yesterday, right? Second live stream in which I went through a script of the phone conversation between Witkoff and Ushakov, between Ushakov and Kirill Dmitriev, that Western so-called media is whining about now and trying to pretend as if something extraordinary had happened or was said in that conversation. It's nothing. It's nothing extraordinary. And if you are interested, I actually read everything, man. Entire conversation of Witkov and Ushakov and Dmitriev. So if you are interested, well, on my channel, on YouTube and Rumble, on both channels, by the way, you just check out yesterday's second live stream. And so now I will just give you on the topic this report from RT, that someone in Washington could be trying to undermine US President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov has suggested, commenting on recent talks of his conversation with the envoy. At least some of the purported leaks are fake, he added. Speaking to Kommersant on Wednesday, Ushakov defended the continuing contacts between Russia and US and maintained that they are needed to build the trust between the two nations. He added that neither side is interested in leaking the contents of their conversation, and Ushakov is correct, by the way. I think audio or conversation between Witkoff and Ushakov was intercepted by CIA under the orders of MI6, and CIA is, of course, organization of traitors of America and American people, dirty fucking prostitutes. All of them, by the way, there are no decent human beings in CIA, obviously, right? And CIA intercepted this conversation. They committed treason, by the way, right? And they share this information with the British intelligence, with MI6, and MI6 then give this audios to Bloomberg, which published it, right? And by doing so, London did try to launch yet another Russia gate, yet another assault on Trump's administration. And already, by the way, in US Congress, there are calls, even from Republicans, to fire Witkoff. Even though he did nothing wrong, man. I read yesterday during yesterday's second live stream, whole conversation Vitkov did not do no wrong, man. He was talking to his Russian counterpart Ushakov, and they were discussing preparations for a potential phone conversation, some peace deal, and so on. Just a working progress, right? That's how stuff is done, by the way. Assistants of the leaders are talking, preparing stuff, and then leaders are either having a phone conversation or face-to-face meeting, and they are prepared, right? Ground is prepared, this meeting or conversation to be successful, right? Because that's what task is. But nevertheless, as I said, by the way, Western public, mainly vast majority of Western public is brain dead, right? After so much propaganda that they've been given, and they would not ask no critical questions. They will read their articles in Western so-called MSM with the calls Witkov to resign because he committed treason, and they will just believe it. That Witkov committed treason, he is a Russian asset, Trump is a Russian asset, everyone is a Russian asset. Majority of people in the West will believe that. They would not ask questions because they are freaking brain dead, man. Freaking zombies. Only tiny minority, I don't know, maybe 1%, 2%, 5% is actually intellectually capable, right? And they will ask questions, but what they gonna influence, man? They are just too few. What they gonna influence, man? Nothing, right? And therefore, I think, unfortunately, globalists will succeed. They're gonna decapitate. They're gonna decapitate America First movement, man. They're gonna decapitate MAGA movement. They're gonna demolish Trump's administration, and they're gonna conduct a character assassination of not just Trump, but also Vance. And processes and the Witkov and all the others, by the way, is just collateral damage. Main target for globalists and London or British aristocracy, British financial clans, financial elites, political elites are obviously main force among globalists. They're gonna succeed, unfortunately, because Trump already demonstrated that he's a coward. He cannot stand for nothing and will not stand for nothing and nobody, right? He's just too afraid. He has no principles, no morality, nothing that good humans have, right? And therefore, he might fire Witkov today, tomorrow, anytime, right? And probably he will go along with Rubio and neocons, right? And the globalists, because neocons are globalist bitches, right? Neocons are globalist assets, man. In the US, they're allies. Sometimes they might have some differences, but usually neocons are operating alongside their globalists. That's the case most of the times, right? So therefore, Trump gonna drop Witkov. Trump gonna and therefore Witkov may not actually come to Moscow. Visit was planned for next week, allegedly, but probably that visit would not happen. Trump gonna drop him, and he will drop Kushner also, his son-in-law. For whatever reason, allegedly his son-in-law was planning to come to Moscow also together with Witkov, which is weird. Who the hell is Jared Kushner, man? Since when he's become like genius of the diplomacy or something like that? Who he represents, man? Who is he? Nobody, right? So it's insulting, kind of. Okay, Witkov at least has official status. He is a special envoy of US president. Who the hell is this Kushner, man? What the hell, right? But that's a whole different story. Anyways, Trump gonna back down, obviously. Trump gonna back down, and therefore, we should not expect no breakthroughs in relationships between Moscow and Washington. We should not expect no deals between Moscow and Washington, no de-escalation between Moscow and Washington. Opposite is going to happen, by the way. Just mark my word. Give it another couple of days, and you will see yet another Trump's U-turn, and yet another statement from Trump how disappointed he is in Putin, and how much sanctions he's going to impose, and how much weapons he's going to send to the regime, and all that bullshit, man, right? So unfortunately, globalists won, man. They actually humiliated America First, MAGA movements, and their formal leadership that's supposed to be current administration in US, right? And they are in charge now, to put it simply. They are in charge. Globalists are in charge in Washington again, as it was the case during the Biden's administration, during first Trump administration, because during the first Trump administration, Trump was dealt quite easily, isn't it? And he was unable to do anything, really. Obama, of course, was and is a globalist, Beach, and all the others, man. Since their execution of Kennedy by CIA, since that day, US never had no true president, actual president that represented the interests of the people of the America. Since the execution of Kennedy by CIA, US is run by globalists and Zionists, period. And things not gonna, and it's gonna stay this way, man. Unfortunately, there is not even theoretical chance, by the way, that things will change and US society will regain control over their country. No, let's be realistic. This is not happening. This is not happening. And after all, Margaret Taylor Greene, that resigned recently, by the way, yesterday, I believe, wrote in a post that system is broke beyond repair. She spent in Washington quite a time, right? And you might have whatever opinion you want about her personality, but at least she went in, right? She saw the system from within. And she's saying, by the way, what I was saying for a million years, that system in the US is not working for people. It's compromised, it's corrupt, it's broken beyond repair. That means US is done, man. US is finished, because I don't see in US society ability, strength and ability, or even will to fight for their own future, for the future of their kids and their grandkids, right? I don't see in US society will to fight for America, man. Because, first of all, because majority of them are zombies, man. They are brain dead. And just a couple of percent from society that is well informed and intellectually capable, they cannot do much, man. They are too little and too weak to actually influence anything. That's the reality, right? And by the way, two other insult on injury. You know what globalists did in regards to US? Well, they targeted through their proxy regime, they targeted their Caspian pipeline consortium once again. And like a few days ago, by the way, and the administrative building of the Caspian pipeline consortium was consortium's maritime terminal near the Novorossiysk was damaged in drone attack and cargo operations at their single point moorings were suspended. This was reported by Caspian Pipeline Consortium, and I said there are two other insult on injury in regards to US. I said this because main shareholders in Caspian Pipeline Consortium are American companies, by the way. It's US companies. Right? So London sent a clear message that they will destroy. They will just not just humiliate. They will freaking destroy everybody in US that will stand up to them, right? and they are not shying away to demonstrate force. They targeted US interests, right? And I remind you that this consortium transfers not Russian oil, but 95+% of oil that goes through Caspian Pipeline Consortium's infrastructure is Kazakhstani oil. It's not even Russian oil. So you see this balance there. Globalists are not just more capable than ruling class in US, they are tremendously more powerful than US ruling elites, man. And that's why I think globalists gonna dictate Washington terms of what to say, when, how, and what to do also. If anybody in US thinks that Washington makes any decisions, sorry, man, no. You want to see true decision makers, go to London. That's where your actual leaders sit, in London, right? You never truly become independent from the BRICS, man, in America, never, right? Anyways, let's continue. Task News Agency is reporting, and also one might ask, yes, but what the hell is wrong with the globalists, man? These European elites, what they want, why they would not de-escalate with Russia, why they are this hostile towards everybody. And well, I don't know everybody, but when it comes to Russia, well, let me give you this report. Sechin, head of Russia's Rosneft, Russia's energy major, he's the head of Rosneft, isn't it? Yes, he is. CEO of Rosneft stated that total value, just a couple of days ago, he stated, by the way, on 25th of November, that Russia's natural resources exceeds $100 trillion, almost twice that of the United States, and there are probably 5, 10, 15 times more than whole of Europe, right? $100 trillion of resources, by the way. If you count added value to this volume of resources, then you will get hundreds of trillions, right? Hundreds of trillions. And well, that's the answer for you. They need resources. They need control over the resources because they know these European elites that I call globalists, they know that they have no resources to sustain dominance, their dominance in this world, and unfortunately, they still are dominant force, man. Unfortunately, they still are dominant force, and to sustain this position, they need resources. And where these resources are, most of the resources, most richest country in this world with resources is Russia. Russia, brother. And that's why they are this hostile. They want to destroy Russia. They want to divide it and control, right? To control everything. That's it, man. That's the answer for you. To dominate world, they need resources that they don't have. And they are looking for places where these resources are. And Russia is right next door, man. You know, that's all it is. Meanwhile, Ushakov, presidential aide here in Russia, stated that Moscow unofficially got several versions of the US peace plan. It could be confusing, and yes, man, it should be confusing because originally it was a 28-point plan, then 19-point plan, then 22-point plan. I said straight away that this is a deception operation on part of Western elites, and it is a deception operation, by the way, that went horribly wrong from the get-go for the Western elites because no one believed in it, right? No one. It's freaking nonsense. We all understand that Western elites and obviously globalists are main force in the Western elites. They are not interested in peace, man. They are not interested in de-escalation. All they want is break for their proxy, Kiev regime that is collapsing, and the break for their Kiev regimes are militaries that are on the brink of collapse, right? That's all they want. And they come up with this nonsensical stuff. They probably they probably demanded from Washington to do something. They are using US as always and abusing US as always in any way, shape, or form that they like, and they ordered probably their neocon prostitutes in Washington to come up with some plan, right? And they pushed this idea into White House, and then Trump probably told Witkoff, you know what, talk to Russians, let's do something about it. Eventually, they come up with this nonsensical 28-point plan. Okay, by the way, Europeans straight away went to push again for ceasefire. First let's do ceasefire and then we can talk this stuff. They need break, man. No, that's all it is. They need break. Western elites are not interested in peace, and it is somewhat unfortunate that Russian leadership is still playing these diplomatic games instead of saying, you know what, we don't trust you, man. We don't trust none of you in the West, right? In the Western elites. We don't believe that you are genuine about the escalation, about ending hostilities, about ending this proxy war against Russia. And we don't believe you because if you want to end this proxy war, you can do it anytime you want, right? It's your proxy war. And it's you that are sacrificing Ukraine for that and residents of Ukraine, right? Stop it. You don't really need negotiations. Just stop it. But you're not going to do this because you are not interested in peace. All you want is break for your proxy, right? Because they are on a breaking point. They reached that breaking point. And probably would be better, if Moscow said directly what it is, right? But no, we are engaged in diplomatic stuff, and Russian officials, you see the difference, isn't it? How diplomatic and polite, in many cases, language of Russian diplomats are, even towards hostiles, right? But okay, man, that's that's politics, I guess, right? That's how politics works. That's how diplomacy works. But we should not expect any breakthroughs, unfortunately. But unfortunately, we should not expect any breakthroughs. And as I said many times before, this conflict most likely will end when globalists will capitulate, and globalists will capitulate, or Western elites will capitulate, and they will capitulate when Russian troops reach borders of the Western Ukraine. That's it, man. It might take another year, another 2 years, another 3 years, 5 years, but eventually Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, and at that point, globalists will have no option but to capitulate, because even if they will send their own troops, right, they will lose. They might try, man. They might send their troops right now, today, and it will change nothing. It will literally change nothing. We will decimate European armies too. We will decimate US army, man. US can send globalists might force Washington to deploy American troops, right, into conflict zone. And you think what is going to happen with US troops? We will eat them alive, by the way. We will decimate them too, right? Most capable force that our enemies, let's say NATO, could come up with was Ukrainian army. That is much more capable than any NATO army, by the way. Not even close, right? So you think if Russian troops are decimating Kiev regime's forces, you think what Russian troops gonna do to forces of France or Germany or US or Turkey or whichever country's army you're gonna throw at us, man? We will eat them alive. That's it, right? So eventually we will reach borders of the Western Ukraine anyways. We don't freaking want Western Ukraine, majority of us, I think, right? It's a different story, difficult story, even though historically speaking, Western Ukraine is a part of Russia and supposed to be, but due to demographic changes there in past several centuries, we're not going to be seen there as a liberator. So therefore, we would not enter, most likely, Western Ukraine. But let the NATO deal with the Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists that they armed and finance. That will be concentrated there at that point. But once we will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, at that point, probably globalists will capitulate. And that's when war gonna end, man. Right? Before that, there might be like a million freaking initiatives from Washington, from Brussels, from London, Berlin, Paris about 20-point peace plan, 30-point peace plan, this or that, but none of it will work because Western elites are never genuine. They cannot be trusted ever. Period, man. You can only force them to act adequately. Otherwise, they wouldn't. They only understand language of force. They have no reverse gear, and they have no brakes. We all know that. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, well, allegedly, U.S. wants peace in Ukraine before agreeing to security guarantees. Media reports. So, Secretary of the State Marco Rubio told the EU of Washington's desire to reach a settlement agreement before agreeing to security guarantees for Kiev. Political reports. Okay, I said straight away, isn't it, that this is just too odd, man. That one of the points in that 28-point peace plan was that U.S. is providing Article 5 style of guarantees to Kiev regime. And that was really, I mean, too crazy even for American leadership or for Western elites, because that will mean U.S. that will give a unique opportunity to the globalists to basically provoke war between U.S. direct war between U.S. and Russia, right? Because even if some temporary ceasefire was reached, I mean, they could provoke a resumption of the hostilities anytime they want, literally anytime they want, right? And what would U.S. do in that case? They will have to go to war against Russia because they sign up to provide Kiev regime with the Article 5 type of guarantees, right? And I guess someone in among American ruling class, someone probably understood that and tell the Rubio or whomever that, you know what, are you crazy, man? Are you suicidal now? You want us to end up in nuclear war with Russia? You might be beach of neocons and the globalists, but are you really want your family to die in a nuclear holocaust? Probably someone told Rubio this, maybe in different words, but And Washington is kind of backtracking now on this fifth article style of guarantees, but yet again, they all are prostitutes of globalists, man. U.S. leadership, from Trump to Rubio to whomever, all of them are freaking prostitutes of their globalists, man. They sold their soul, right? Those filthy creatures, man. And therefore, eventually, they will do most likely whatever global is gonna order them to do. Anything. And that's why I am saying, by the way, that's why I'm saying we have to take care of globalists, man. We have to neutralize globalists because they are just too dangerous. They are existential threat for humanity, and I'm saying so for a reason, man. Right? Yes, some might argue, some might say that, give a time, give a chance to America First forces in US. They might try to do something. There is no time, man. There is no time for experiments. If America First or MAGA was capable of anything, they would already demonstrate that. But they are only capable of empty words. Throwing empty words everywhere, right? When it comes to actions, take a look at their American policies, man. Words talk is cheap, man, but policies matter. And take a look at their policies of Washington. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Ryabkov, deputy of the foreign minister of the Russian Federation, told the TASS that there is no agreement on the date of Witkov's visit to Russia. Earlier, there was reports that visit of Witkov might take place somewhere next week, but after a globalist basically launched quite successful assault on Trump's administration, particularly on Witkov, I think Trump will cave in. Most likely, Trump will cave in now, and Witkov will be fired. I think there is a high probability on that. Trump never stands for anyone or anything, right? He is a coward, and therefore probably he will cave in. That's my guess. Let's see. Maybe he will ask globalists for a little time before he will get rid of Witkov, but eventually he will. If globalists want Witkov to be out, and seems like that's what they want, then Witkov will be out. And he will be lucky if globalists will not freaking kill him or put in jail. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that NABU, this anti-corruption bureau, Western-controlled anti-corruption bureau in Ukraine, interrogated Umerov in a connection with the Mindich case. Umerov is, of course, former defense minister. He ran from Ukraine little earlier. He went to a number of countries. He was in Turkey, then in the Middle East, in UAE, I believe, or Saudi Arabia. Then, according to reports, he went to US for a day or two, where he signed up with FBR to be informant, right? And I predicted at the time that maybe FBR will tell him to go back to Ukraine, and probably they give him some sort of guarantees, and that's what Umerov did, and he was now questioned by NABU on the corruption scandal. And by the way, this topic, this information, just another reminder that globalists did not forget about the issue of manpower, right? That Kiev regime forces are facing, and behind the closed doors, one way or another, but they will continue, openly or not, but they will continue to push Zelensky and his criminal inner circle, his henchmen, to adopt legislation necessary to start forcefully mobilizing young generation people from 18 to 25. All this story with NABU, SAP, and corruption and all that stuff is one of the ways how Western elites are putting pressure on Zelensky to start mobilizing youth. That's it, man. They don't really care about corruption. I mean, Western elites, they don't really care about corruption in Ukraine, because they themselves are most corrupt creatures ever existed on this world, man. I mean, Western elites are filth, literally filth, man, right? They are corrupted in so many ways, man, that, they are filth. So obviously they don't care about corruption in Ukraine, no, but they will use corruption, right, as a tool to put some pressure on their puppets. And they will. Many forget about issue of forced mobilization of the youth in Ukraine, soon. Wait for a news. By the way, on this topic. It will not take long before legislation will be adopted by so-called parliament there to start mobilizing a young generation people. Meanwhile, Ukraine is about to receive $5 billion worth of weapons. This will happen before end of this year. Months left, basically. The arms come through a program where Europe buys equipment for Kiev from the US. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated. So, of course, this behind this facade of some peace talks and peace plans and this and that, in reality, which is deception, by the way, deception operation on part of Western elites. In reality, that's what is going on, man. They are looking for more money, more weapons, ways to prolong this proxy war against Russia, ways to sacrifice more people for their geopolitical agenda, right? That's what Western elites do, man. And when it comes to money that they need to finance this proxy war, well, Ursula von der Leyen, Ursula washing machine. Remember, isn't it? This the prostitute was saying that Russian military-industrial complex is taking chips from washing machines to to operate their missiles, man. Yes, we are taking chips from freaking washing machines to put them in Iskander missiles, right? In Oreshnik missiles and stuff. That's the level of intellect of the people that being put in a position of power in the West, man. These freaking primitive creatures, man. Right? But nevertheless, they are in a position of power and they are doing whatever they've been told to do by by their supremes, right? By the superiors. And we have this report now that EU will speed up Ukraine's 140 billion euro loan, according to Ursula Bursula, which means they're going to accelerate her process of stealing of Russian assets. Yesterday, that was, isn't it, or day before, Kaya Kallas, even number one diplomat in EU, publicly said, what the heck is wrong with Belgium or something? She went after Belgium government, by the way. What is the issue or something like that, Kallas said, why they are against us stealing these Russian assets? She's that stupid, man. Don't understand that this Euroclear holds assets from all over the world, and it's dozens of trillions, by the way, right? And if Russian assets being stolen, tremendous damage already being done by freezing Russian assets and by stealing profits from the Russian assets. But if they're gonna steal assets themselves too, then, well, Belgium is done, man. Belgium is done because, and Belgium economy is done. Euroclear is finished, obviously, right? Because investors gonna start pulling out their assets, man. They should do it right now, yesterday. They should do it yesterday, man, right? And eventually Belgium have to pay compensations. And that will make it bankrupt, man. But Kaya Kallas has no fucking idea why Belgium is so cautious, and neither she cares, man. Kaya Kallas is extreme Russophobe, and for her, anything goes, man. Anything that harms Russia one way or another is good for her. Even if that will mean destruction, total destruction of EU, European economies, livelihoods of tens and potentially hundreds of millions of Europeans. She don't care, man. That's what hate does to people, man. You know, that's what all sorts of phobias do to people. Anyways, they're gonna steal Russian assets, by the way. Eventually, I have no doubts about it. They're gonna force Belgian government. They're gonna force Belgian government and the leadership of Euroclear. They will. TASS news agency is also reporting that, well, Russian ambassador in UK, Andrei Kalin, stated that UK has no money to finance Ukraine. The economic situation in Britain is dire, and it lacks the country's own funds to finance Ukraine. This explains all the talks among the country's authorities about the need to seize frozen Russian assets. Russian ambassador to London, Andrei Kalin, pointed this out to the Russia One TV channel, and he is on point. Of course, UK's economy is in big trouble. UK itself, generally speaking, is in big trouble, right? Social fabric is stretched beyond limits. Country is on the verge of civil war. Economy is in downfall, is in recession. Even if British authorities are manipulating numbers and are coming up with a little bit of plus in GDP terms, in reality they are in recession. Same in France. In Germany, German government is no longer even tries to manipulate. They're still manipulating with numbers, but they're no longer trying to pretend that German economy is not in recession, right? So they all are economically, financially down, by the way, right? But they have printing machine. They have printing machine, and if necessary, they will start print money. Yes, it will cause all sorts of problems for you, but do they care really? All they care is dominance over the world, and they are losing. By the way, they are losing this proxy war against Russia. They are desperate, and they will sacrifice literally everybody, including in EU member state citizens, because that's what they will. That's what they do already. Take a look at the European economies, man. So yes, Kaelin is on point there that UK is in trouble and don't really has money to finance this proxy war unless London will start printing hundreds of billions of pounds. And they might actually. And also EU Central Bank might be ordered to start printing hundreds of billions of euros. But they will still ration assets. They will find ways to finance, to prolong this proxy war. They're gonna steal Russian assets. They're gonna print money if necessary, right? And well, if they would not be able to resolve the issue of lack of manpower in a Kyiv regime, they're gonna provoke another wars. They're gonna sacrifice other quasi-states, man. Possibly in Southern Caucasus and possibly in the Baltics. They might even try to sacrifice Poland, Bob. They might try to sacrifice Poland too. So we are far away from a point when globalists and their controlled regimes all over the West will be in a position to capitulate. So yes, they might lack money, they might lack this and that, but they still have capabilities to continue this proxy war. Until we will, and as I said, man, there is two possibilities, man. Either we have to strike back on NATO right now, on NATO countries that are openly involved, directly involved in this war against Russia. Either we have to strike on these NATO member states right now, and with such a force and scale that they will be terrified and will capitulate immediately. Or if we don't want to take this step, and I can see why Russian president would not authorize such a retaliatory measures, then in that case, this war will continue until we will reach Western Ukraine, borders of the Western Ukraine. It is what it is, man, right? And unfortunately, until then, globalists will, and the Western elites in general, will manage to carry on this proxy war. Only once we will reach Western Ukraine, they will capitulate. That's how it is, man. And they're gonna be no peace deals and peace agreements and ceasefires. There will be a lot of talks around the subjects, but nothing serious. Also, when it comes to UK, by the way, to tell you how depressing the situation in UK is in all fields, right? Recently, there was a report that finally, British military industrial complex managed to deal with whatever issues they were facing with a new infantry fighting vehicle, Ajax. And reports were that first, mass production of these vehicles have started. And you know what? It only took like months since I reported about it. And now we have this report from Times that the British Army urgently halted the operations of the new Ajax combat vehicles After 31 servicemen were injured during the exercises, what is wrong with this equipment, the production of the which costs billions of pounds sterling, media outlet is asking. And well, what is wrong is that there is a vibrations, by the way, too much noise and vibrations in a vehicle that makes people sick. And this was the issue originally. This vehicle supposed to enter service like decade ago, right? But every time they deliver to army new batch of these vehicles, during the exercises, militaries were getting sick. Militaries were saying it's too much vibration inside. It's too freaking noisy, right? People might get concussion if they stay too long in this vehicle. And it took years and years and years to deal with this vibration issue and their noise issue. And as I said, approximately months ago, reports were coming in that finally British military industrial complex finalized the works on this vehicle. They delivered their updated vehicles to army, and it only took 1 month, by the way, and already 31 servicemen, almost half of British army, man. I'm joking, by the way, but in every joke there is a part of a joke. Rest of it's true, right? British army is a joke, obviously, and all they have is like, I don't know, 50, 60,000 troops, 70,000. It's not even a full Wembley Stadium, man. But anyways, 31 military was injured. Crazy, man. And the British elites, British aristocracy thinks that they are dominant and they deserve to be dominant force in this world, and they should dictate everybody what to do, when, how, and so on. They cannot even build freaking infantry fighting vehicle, man. Freaking morons and scum of humanity. That's what British aristocracy is, man, and British elites in general, including their dirty royal so-called family, man. These freaking disgusting creatures, man. They had so much inbreed, they don't even look like humans no more, man. Am I correct? Anyways, your EU top diplomat Kaya Kallas, that I already mentioned, meanwhile, is I don't know what is wrong with her really at this point. I mean, everything is wrong with her. Clearly, she is a stupider, a Russia hater, xenophobe, racist, Nazi. I mean, she is all the bad things that human can be, right? A mass murderer, by the way. How many people died in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia due to her participation, for example, her negative role in Western policies, but she clearly needs some, medical assistance, because she said that Russian military size should be capped. She actually went to say that Russian military should be capped, by the way. She thinks it's up to her or Brussels. She thinks they are so powerful, so dominant, that they can tell Russia now what kind of army we should have, man. Russia should carve their military, the size of its military budget and also army, in order to ensure lasting peace in Ukraine. This so-called diplomat in EU is saying, and you know what? I might refuse from now on to even comment anything, even to pay any attention to any statements from Kaya Kallas, Ursula Bursula, and the rest of the human scum from Europe, and because it's just waste of time, isn't it? Okay, we can laugh, at least something positive out of this, but what else, man? There is no value, isn't it, in this kind of news? These people cannot provide no value. Their statements are foolish, stupid, isn't it? And only so many times we can laugh at these creatures, man. Am I correct? So maybe I should start ignoring these bastards, man, completely, because they bring no value, man. Their existence brings no value to this world, for sure. Anyways, dear friends, I still have quite a number of news left, but I guess this update is already long enough. Yes, it's 1.5 hours already, and and I'm gonna end the live stream right on that news segment of it now, dear friends, and the next rest of the news will go in either today's second update on Patreon and Boosty. Maybe I will have second live stream later on. I don't know. Hopefully you like the video. Hopefully you like this update, dear friends. And if so, please like the video. Hopefully also there was no technical issues. I did check right now. Rumble, only 10 people online, man. How sad. Many thanks to all 10 members of community for joining this stream, but well, too bad, man. Okay. There was no super chat there, by the way, so there's nothing to highlight. And so, yes, that's it for now. That's it for now, dear friends. Thank you all. Thank you all for your attention. And if you want to support, dear friends, if you want to donate, you can do it through several means. You can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comments. Also, you can subscribe, of course, to my Patreon and page and or page on Boosty. That will be great help, of course. And yes, that's it. Really, have a wonderful day and take care. Bye.